Majoring in philosophy, is it a death sentence for your career? Let's ask some of my former students. I'm Christopher Annadale, and this is Life After Philosophy. Welcome to Life After Philosophy. My guest today is Zachary Robinson, a 2017 graduate of Mount St. Mary's University with a Master of Arts in Philosophical Studies degree. He's also earned bachelor's degrees in mathematics and physics and an MS in Applied and Computational Mathematics from Johns Hopkins University in 2014. He is the chief scientist of Rising Tide, a startup that automates and optimizes business operations for last-mile logistics companies. He has 12 years of experience in algorithm development, applied mathematics, applied magnetics, digital signal processing, data analysis, software development, and more. Zach is also a husband and the father of 2 children. Zachary, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Chris. It's great to be here.
So let me start first with the kind of science and philosophy background. You studied applied mathematics, science, etc. Prior to studying philosophy. You came to seminary for a couple of years, studied philosophy, completed the master's degree, and you discerned out, you left seminary, and now you are working for Rising Tide.
Yes.
Tell me about that sort of in and out of philosophy. Was there a continuity there, or did it feel like you were sort of shifting lanes and then shifting back into your original lane?
For me, it felt like shifting lanes, for sure. But I really enjoyed the intellectual pursuit when studying philosophy. And I would describe it as, while studying philosophy, I not only thought about things I had never thought about before, I also learned to think in ways that I had never thought before. And not only was the experience enriching from growing my intellect, but it was also very practical. I think that I'm a much better technical problem solver now on the other side of my philosophy education than I was before.
Yeah, I hadn't considered that. So you've had the experience of doing science. Just that's my catch-all category for it.
Yeah,
doing what you do before and after doing a 2-year course of study in philosophy. And is it merely the sort of critical thinking, logical analysis type tasks that are easier, or skills that are developed, or are there other things that you feel you see more clearly or are able to process differently?
Yeah, I think studying philosophy it certainly broadened my horizons, right? And I think that that has given me an ability when it comes to technical problem solving to be able to say, wait, let me pause, let me take a step back and look at the whole and say, is there a totally different way that I need to be thinking about this or categorizing? Should I be approaching this problem from a different angle altogether? So philosophy has really strengthened my ability to do that exercise.
That's interesting. I hadn't considered that as being a benefit of philosophy quite so explicitly. So I'm glad that you shared that.
Yeah, I have a friend who describes philosophy as the art of making distinctions, and I think I was not very good at making distinctions before, and I now really have a strength in that area. And I think you notice this when talking to people who love philosophy, people who have studied philosophy. They are exceptional at making distinctions or talking about the senses in which a thing is true or in which a thing applies, right? And I think that bringing it back around to science or technology or even mathematics, being able to distinguish, being able to talk about the senses of things, it does help you to solve problems when you're working in those technical areas.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I wonder if one way to put it would be to say that philosophy can give you the ability to bring a kind of an additional level of granularity to your analysis, your perception of whatever reality you're focusing on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. When I hear granularity, I think, refinement. I think of, maybe like a filter. You could have a coarse filter. You can have a finer filter. And I think philosophy gives you more tools to kind of hone in on the details of what you're working on.
Okay, great. Let me ask you about Rising Tide, which you're working with right now.
Yeah.
It's a relatively new company, but one that you're deeply involved in. Can you tell me a little bit about how you came to be involved with them and what sort of work you do now that this philosophy education is benefiting you in?
Yeah. So you shared my elevator pitch about Rising Tide in the intro. We're a company that automates and optimizes business operations for last mile logistics companies. And the product that we offer is software as a service. You might hear it abbreviated SaaS. So we have a software platform that these companies can subscribe to. They pay a monthly subscription fee, and we're able to take their data, apply algorithms to it to be able to decide what's the best thing, what's the best way for you to run your logistics business, and then, let them actually do that. So I got involved in Rising Tide because of one of my best friends from college. His name is Nels. We went to Penn State together. We met on the very first day of college. We became friends instantly, and we've been great friends ever since. We lived in the same dorm the first 2 years of college. We roomed together in our junior and senior year. So the way the company came to be was Nels met another one of our founders. To take a step back, there are 4 founders together of Rising Tide. Nels met another one of the founders, Jeff, through a friend of his at church. They started coming up with these ideas about how you could improve the last mile logistics industry. Jeff had over 2 decades of experience in last mile logistics and saw all of the pain points of last mile. Now, to give a little bit of context about that, because I expect that most people are probably not familiar with last mile logistics.
I'm certainly not.
So in a logistics chain, last mile refers to the last link in the chain. So, you might have, ships hauling, tons of containers and, rail, trains carrying their stuff. Then you've got 18-wheelers, doing long haul. You've got LTL, which means less than truckload. So your big box trucks, but they're still smaller than your 18-wheelers. And then the last piece of the chain is last mile delivery, or you might hear people talk about it as final mile delivery. Interestingly, that last leg of the journey is the least efficient leg of the journey. And it's the most expensive. It's the area where the most money is spent. And it's the area where people have the most problems. And so
is this something like getting product from the warehouse to the retail store?
Yes. So it can be, from the last warehouse to the retail store. It can be from the last warehouse to the front door of a consumer.
Okay.
All of those kind of situations are last mile delivery.
So there's a particular set of problems that comes up, it sounds like, in challenges and maybe opportunities in just that generalized across all the different industries that you work with. Okay.
Yes.
So what do you guys do?
And so we have honed in particularly on FedEx, trying to offer our services to FedEx contractors because we're a startup, because we want to grow, and because we want to be able to scale. Obviously, everyone's heard of FedEx, right? So there's a big opportunity for scaling. And so again, we offer our software as a service. FedEx contractors can subscribe to our software. We'll pull in their data. We can actually take a look at, okay, here's your fleet. Here's the size of all of the vehicles that you have available. Here's all of the stops that you have to go to, and here's the volume at each stop. And some of those stops might require special capabilities. Some of them might take longer than others. And so our platform is a tool that can aggregate all of that data together, apply mathematics, apply logic, apply algorithms to it, to do the decision making for you to say, what is the best way to allocate your vehicles to take care of all of the, FedEx, for example, all of the packages that you're responsible for today.
Okay, so it sounds like you guys don't work one-on-one as a consultant with each company, but you design software that then does the work that the company needs it to do to increase the efficiency of their last mile logistics?
Yes, and one of our future goals is to start working on digital consultancy where we can bring together best practices from across the entire industry and then offer those back to our clients so that they might be able to interface with a large language model, for example, and ask particular questions of their business and have those best practices, applied or interpreted through the context of their very business.
That's interesting. So let me ask you, since you brought up LLMs and AI, we're living in maybe year 3 of what feels like it's going to be the age of AI. A lot of speculation now about the implications for the future, how this will change politics, society, education, business. A lot of hopes, probably some hopes that are way exaggerated, probably also some fears that are way exaggerated. But what's the specific role that you see for AI and the kind of work that you guys are doing? And what's your role in that role, if you take my meaning?
Yeah. Let me answer that question in a slightly roundabout way. So we'll take a quick detour here. And then we'll come back to it. Because this context, I think, is going to help color the answer that I give you. So you mentioned, fears or hopes, exaggerations about what AI is and isn't. And I think that for people who are afraid of AI, the best way to wrestle with your fears is firstly prayer. Secondly, to be informed and be as knowledgeable as you can. AI is obviously evolving very rapidly, so it's hard to stay up to date with, well, what's the latest? What's the latest? It's, there's always new news about AI. But last month, in June of 2025, Apple published a paper that I think is some of the biggest, most interesting news about AI right now. And so, if you or any of your listeners are the type who love academic papers, this one is more technical. I will give you a fair warning. The title of their paper was "The Illusion of Thinking." So it kind of ties in with epistemology, which you taught me while I was in seminary. I remember. And what Apple did was they took the leading large language models and large reasoning models that are available on the market right now, and they gave them some new kinds of tests to examine, okay, like how do these things, quote, think? And previous benchmarks before this study that was done by Apple were really just aimed at correctness of answer. Like, did the model get the right answer or did it, and if it got right answers, it got high scores. But what Apple was trying to see is they were trying to understand to a deeper level, how does the model think or how does it reason? And I would put think in quotes because I would argue that based on Apple's evidence, there's not a ton of thinking actually going on with these models. Not to say that they're not very sophisticated technology, they are. So Apple gave the AI puzzles to try to solve. And these were types of puzzles that could be scaled in complexity without changing the underlying logic that's used to solve the puzzle. So one example is the Tower of Hanoi puzzle. That's a puzzle many people have seen where you've got 3 pegs on a board. You've got a stack of discs on one of the pegs. Let's say it's the leftmost peg. And you have to move the discs start out stacked from largest on the bottom to smallest on the top.
Right.
Each disc has a different size. And your goal with the puzzle is to move all of the disks to the peg on the right. And the rules are you may only move one disk at a time, and you may not put a bigger disk on top of a smaller disk.
Yeah.
So there's an algorithm that allows you to solve this puzzle. And once you start to get it down and actually play with the pieces, you'll even develop a bit of a muscle memory of, I see the kind of constant pattern of how I'm moving the disks around and how that's going to lead me to the end goal. So the interesting thing that Apple discovered, let me add one more comment there. This puzzle can be increased in complexity by adding more disks to the puzzle. But the fundamental algorithm that you use to solve it doesn't change. The fundamental logic doesn't change. So they had, that puzzle as one example that they gave to the AI. They had a checkers puzzle where you start with pairs of, a set of checkers on one side of a linear board. So the board just has one row to it. Mm-hmm. And say you have two checkers on one end, two checkers on the other end, and an empty space in the middle. Or three checkers on one end, three checkers on the other end, and an empty space in the middle. And you have to use checkers moves of either sliding or jumping to get all of the pieces from one end of the linear board to the other end of the linear board.
Right.
Again, that's a puzzle that can be, the fundamental algorithm or fundamental logic that you use to solve the puzzle doesn't change, but the puzzle can be made more complex simply by adding more checkers to your starting conditions on each end of the board.
I get it. Yeah.
So they have puzzles like these that they give to the AI. And what they found is that the AI was able to solve the puzzles at low level of complexity based on information that it had when the models were trained. But for all of the puzzles, they reached a level of complexity where the AI just collapsed, became completely unable to solve the puzzle. And they show very compellingly in this paper that what's happening with these AI models is they're not achieving algorithmic reasoning. They're doing something much more akin to pattern matching. And the puzzles did better with the low-level versions of the Tower of Hanoi than they did with the other puzzles that they presented. And a compelling explanation as to why that is because you can find more on the internet about the Tower of Hanoi than you could about the other puzzles that they used.
Right.
And so the model had more to draw from in order to, again, achieve success, getting a solution with a low number of disks in the Tower of Hanoi. But once they added more disks, the puzzle was just like, I can't solve. Sorry, the AI was like, I just can't solve this puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Would that have to do with the massively increased time to visualize? If I had to visualize like a 12-disk Tower of Hanoi solution, mm-hmm. It would take me forever just to establish the patterns in my head. Applying the algorithm is one thing, mm-hmm. but you say that it scales up without a change of algorithm complexity, mm-hmm. but the time involved, I think I've heard this about Tower of Hanoi. At a certain number of disks, you're looking at, the amount of time to physically move the disks exceeds the age of the universe, something mm-hmm. like that. I mean, the time required to actually complete it, or the level of complexity, even at a scale that can be mastered by an algorithm, mm-hmm. is becomes vast very quickly.
Yes.
Is that what stumps them, you suppose?
No, I think not. And the reason why not is because I would say two different arguments to say no. The first is that they started with fewer disks, right? So they started with 3, then they moved to 5, then they moved to 7, right? And just increasing the number of disks. And they were using the same the same model. So the model had the opportunity to learn, mm-hmm. right, from what it had done previously.
Okay.
But it was evident that once they hit, 13 or 15 disks, like that was the collapse point in the Tower of Hanoi, right? Like, well, so why didn't the model, catch on from what it had done before? So that's, reason number one. Reason number two, I would say, is part of the study was they explicitly told the algorithm to the model. They said, this is how you go about moving the disks, regardless of the number of disks. And this will allow you to solve it. And the model was not able to learn that. It wasn't able to receive that. And
so that is interesting. Yeah. I'll have to look up that story. I'll look up that article and put a link in the description for this episode.
Yeah. I think it's a fascinating read. I highly recommend. And so how that comes back around to rising tide then is I would submit to anyone that until AI achieves algorithmic reasoning, there is still very much going to be an industry for algorithm developers or mathematicians, scientists who are able to look at a problem and they're able to apply algorithmic reasoning, something that AI just does not appear to be capable of yet. And the tools that they develop that apply specific algorithms dissolved for the specific problem spaces in which they're working are going to be much superior products to someone who just comes along and says, well, I slapped AI on it, and it's futuristic, right? Like, it's not going to work well. It might, if your problem space reaches a complexity beyond what the model was able to ingest when it was trained, your model's going to collapse and you're going to face serious problems.
Yeah, well, let me ask you what might seem more like an economics question.
Sure.
Do you suppose, I'm thinking of the threat and the fears, would it be the case perhaps that the algorithmic reasoning that can be done by human scientists, while it's better, may not be enough better to justify to the people making the decisions, preferring that to an AI that just kind of works, but maybe just at a fairly low level, but feels in any way like it's free or close to free.
Yeah.
In terms of you don't have to pay somebody for a service. I realize I'm creating a problem for you, but is that one of my fears looking at the economics of AI is that it looks like the equivalent of, you might say, very, very low wage, unskilled labor. Like it's good enough. And so why would we want what's actually good and better? Is there a problem you foresee in the future? Or do you think that humans are going to be able to fairly easily establish their place as superior to AI economically?
Yeah, I think that AI is undoubtedly going to transform our economics and transform our workplace. And I don't know that, we'll like all of those changes, right? Or at least, not early on.
Yeah.
So I think it will depend the problems that you're trying to solve or, the space in which you're working, whether the AI is good enough or whether we really need humans in the mix or, alternatively, like some type of software that was developed by humans specifically for this purpose. So let me give a humorous example. There was a guy who recently pitted an AI chatbot against an Atari from the 70s in the game of chess.
I read this just a few days ago.
And the chatbot had told him, oh, I love chess. I'm actually really good at chess. Would you like to play chess? And he declined. And then it was like, oh, come on, I'm really good. Let's play. And he said, well, hey, would you like to play an Atari? And he put the Atari on the beginner level and it crushed AI. It absolutely crushed it. The AI made, moves that are just even below novice, right? Things where it was obviously putting its pieces into danger. Or sometimes it attempted to make moves, that weren't even allowed by the rules of the game. So all this to say that, when it comes to the types of problems that you're trying to solve, given the current state of the art, do you want AI or do you want Atari? Well, I want Atari if we're talking about winning a chess game.
Right.
Because it has algorithms that were written for that particular problem space, and it does a much, much better job than the AI does. But I agree with you, there will be certain areas where the AI is good enough and it's much cheaper, and it just makes economic dollars and cents to use AI instead.
Right. The other worry I have, and I don't know that this comes up in your work, is the psychological worry. Because it seems to me, AI, I agree with you, it's a pattern recognizer. It really has no cognitive function. It has no truth. Doesn't seem to be to have any sort of truth functionality as I'm experiencing it currently. But it does very plainly simulate a lot of thinking activity, a lot of cognitive activity.
Yes.
And humans, I think, being what we are, we will naturally sort of impute a kind of intentionality to it. Right? We'll say it's doing this because it wants to do this, or it's lying to me again. Why is it not telling me the truth? And this at scale and sort of in the consumer product mode, that seems to present unique kind of psychological and even social health challenges.
Yeah.
Is anything that you're seeing with AI or reading or speculating about indicate that problem might be tamed in the future?
I have a lot of thoughts, all occurring at the same time. You might have heard about Grok, which is the AI owned by Elon Musk, and just a couple days ago, it had some very interesting episodes on
I remember that.
like lots of racial slurs that caused a lot of controversy because the developers purportedly tried to let it off the leash in terms of being politically correct.
I remember that for about 48 hours, it turned into Mecha Hitler.
Yes.
And then they slapped the controls back on and tamed it.
Yes. Other aspects of the social problem with AI. I have read stories about people who fall in love with their AI chatbot or are convinced by their AI chatbot that either they're God or it is God. So they lose sight of reality because they're interfacing with this agent, this machine that does simulate, as you said, real thinking, simulates apparent reasoning, and I think there are certainly scary dimensions to that. There are significant social problems that can arise. And so how do we tame that? How do we combat that? I think that the ultimate answer is by holding fast to the truths of the Catholic faith, the truths that are taught by the Catholic Church about human dignity, first and foremost, about pursuing what is true and staying fundamentally rooted in the truth. And I think if we hold on to those things, God's going to guide us through safely.
That's great. That's a good answer. I appreciate that. Thank you. Let me ask you one more thing, because another one of the lane shifts that you've made, right, from applied mathematics into seminary and philosophy, and then back out into what you're doing now. Another change you made was getting married, having kids. You joined me sort of in the fatherhood club.
Yes.
Welcome to the club.
Thank you.
What does your philosophy education look like now, 3 years or 3+ years into being a dad? Were there insights there that you think prepared you for or gave you some kind of head start in terms of trying to be a family man?
I think in regards to ethics in particular, a philosophy education gives you a lot more vocabulary. It gives you more ways to articulate why you do the things that you do. What are the reasons that motivate your behavior? And I look forward to the day when I can share those reasons why with my kids. Right now, my kids are ages 3 and 1, and they're not capable of receiving why yet. Even my 3-year-old son, he doesn't comprehend why or because. And it's funny, he'll use the word because, but he uses it incorrectly. Or he just uses it kind of parroting like what he might have seen in a cartoon, for example. So I think yes, philosophy has given me more tools to be a better parent. And for right now, when you have really little kids, you have to draw a little bit more on the virtue of fortitude, or pray for more of the virtue of fortitude than like the virtues of prudence or maybe wisdom, for example. Although some would say wisdom includes fortitude, long-winded way of saying Yes, but I haven't been able to directly apply those tools yet. It's been more indirect.
Right. Well, it's certainly one of the things we certainly emphasize in teaching philosophy is growth in the virtues, is a kind of self-mastery and self-understanding. Maybe that's the final topic we can talk about. Is there a way in which you understand what it's like to be you, or to be you in this world, doing the things that you're doing, both in your personal life and in your professional life, in a better, deeper way because of the kind of education you've done?
Yes, because I would say, my comment about having richer vocabulary, or being able to articulate more, kind of coming full circle to where we started, being able to distinguish or talk about the senses in which a thing is true, or the senses in which some category applies. That's universal across all of philosophy. Ethics included, but even outside of ethics, even in the realms of anthropology or epistemology or metaphysics. And so my philosophical education has given me, again, more tools, more vocabulary to distinguish the various aspects, or to articulately describe the various aspects of my entire life. So whether that's been in pursuits that are more scientific, or whether that's been in, understanding myself as a person. I remember an experience in seminary where I was wrestling with the philosophy of Descartes and having a bit of an existential crisis as I was walking behind the seminary building. And it's like, how do I know that I exist? Am I just a mind, and what's going on? And all of a sudden, I felt like I was just hit by this moment of clarity. That was probably a grace of God that made me very thankful for the opportunities to wrestle with the various philosophies that I studied during my education. But I just had this moment where I realized, I can either choose to receive the gifts that are coming to me, right? All of these things that are given to me, or that I receive through my senses, right? That impress themselves upon my senses. And in that moment, I could smell the air very clearly. I could hear, birds chirping. There was a breeze blowing. And so it's a very sensory experience for me, and the thought that came to me was, look, if I'm just a mind, then I should be able to fully control the world that surrounds me, right? And yet, there is clearly something external to me, clearly, something that's impressing itself upon me, and I don't have supreme control over this. And I can either, choose to receive and accept that, and start to live as a sensible person would, yeah, I am a mind and a body, right? And I have been put into this world, and wonder allows me to discover and learn. Or I can reduce it all away and try to push it out, and ultimately, you've got to make a choice, right? And I said, well, I'm gonna choose to fully receive everything that is being offered to me to receive. And so that was a particular moment where I felt like I know myself better because of this.
It sounds like kind of a realist awakening, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's a beautiful reflection. I really appreciate that. That's a good place for us to wrap up too.
Okay.
My guest today on Life After Philosophy has been Zachary Robinson, a 2017 graduate of Mount St. Mary's University and the chief scientist of Rising Tide. Thanks so much, Zachary, for being with me today.
Thank you very much, Chris. I very much enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to Life After Philosophy. If you enjoyed the podcast, please rate it 5 stars and share this episode with a friend. I appreciate your support.